So now yesterday I talked about Dave Rubin because Dave Rubin did a podcast with Colin Moriarty, and he said that if basically the options stay the same with it basically being Trump or Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders or these kind of people, that if there's not a cratering of the economy or some kind of horrendous terrorist attack, he's going to vote for Trump in 2020 and he's going to have no problem doing so. So we've already looked at many different things as to why Dave Rubin is not a liberal. For example, his stances on taxation, the fact that he only gets invited by libertarians and conservatives, the fact that he calls himself a classical liberal, and the definition of a classical liberal, of course, is today's conservative. And we've looked at his own political compass results being in the bottom right quadrant, which would be obviously right wing. So there's just essentially like a monsoon of kind of reasons why he's libertarian or conservative. Of course, he also called progressivism a mental disorder. He also, like I said just yesterday, we talked about how he said that if it's a crazy, quote, crazy progressive like Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren, he's going to be voting Trump and he's going to, quote, have no problem doing so. So essentially what you're looking at here is just a huge wave and a huge kind of monsoon of evidence, if you will. And people still will claim he's a liberal. Now, why does he claim he's a liberal? He claims he's a liberal because he's essentially this kind of what you can call in its own kind of a token, right? So, for example, when I covered the story about this MSNBC host saying, or guest, I don't remember if it was a host or a guest, saying that, one of these people who is barred from free speech is actually a liberal. And, when people like Ben Shapiro or Steven Crowder talk to these people and they're like, oh, I can have great conversations with Dave Rubin. I'm great friends with Dave Rubin and he's a liberal. It's like, yeah, he's not really a liberal. You're just saying that. He's not actually a liberal. So there's just this kind of tokenism that goes on with that, and being able to say, oh yeah, this is one of my great friends and someone I collaborate with a lot, and whoa, he's a liberal. Like, no, he's not. You're just saying that to get points, to make yourself seem like, yeah, I'm friends with people all across the aisle, I collaborate with people all across the aisle and different stuff like that. So he may have some like certain views that he considers liberal, but to be honest, he doesn't even know what his own viewpoints are. If you guys saw my videos on his interview with David Pakman, he himself had stated that he supports single payer, but then he described himself as supporting Obamacare. So essentially what you're looking at is a guy who's just purely driven by money, because he doesn't even know what his own conviction, he doesn't have any conviction, he doesn't know what his own views are. So people who still think, this is the question I'm asking, do people still think that Dave Rubin is liberal? Unfortunately, I'm going to have to say yes. And like I said yesterday, if you already don't think, or if you right now think that he's a liberal, after all the evidence that has been presented to you, either in this video or you've just seen all around, right? Because there's a lot more than I've stated myself. If you still think he's a liberal, I don't know what's going to sway you, if anything will sway you.